imagine if we would take, these are sugar cubes, if we were to take a sugar cube and we were to place one sugar cube upon every square, at the end of all of these squares, there would be 64 of these sugar cubes on this checkerboard. Now this is thinking additionally. Now, what if we took a different approach, and instead of saying we're going to put one sugar cube on each of these squares, and we're going to start at square number 1, we're going to place one sugar cube. But in the second square, after that, we're just going to double what was in the first square. So now we have 2 cubes in the second square, a total of 3. But then by the time we get to the third square, we're going to double what was in the second square. Instead of having 1 there, we're now going to have 4 cubes. Right? And what if we continue this? By the time we get to the fourth square, we're going to double what's in the third square, and there are going to be 8 cubes in that square. Now, the Museum of Science and Industry says this, that if we would continue this pattern all the way through from square number 1 all the way to square number 64, by the time we double, every time we double and we double and we double, we get all the way to the 64th square, we would have so many sugar cubes that we could cover the entire state of Texas under 30 feet of sugar cubes. Isn't that amazing? See, that's the power of multiplication. Now, what if we're not talking about sugar cubes, but we're talking about Christians who are sharing their faith? And what if, on average, that every last one of us were able to share the gospel with just one person in our lifetime, and that person comes to faith in Christ, and we would simply double our number among us? And that's a good thing, right? Now, the tragedy about that is that there would be far more people in this world who claim to know Christ, have a relationship with Christ, who can come to church houses like this, who will live their entire life and never share the gospel with one person, much less actually lead one person to faith in Christ. And that, my friend, is a tragedy. That you would have the greatest news that there ever was at your disposal, and you don't share it with other people, and you don't have the blessing of seeing somebody open their heart to receive it. But what if we not only saw it as our responsibility to share it one time, but that we shared it over and over again? So that at some point along the way, the Spirit was at work, and one of the many people that I share the gospel with, maybe just one of them, comes to know Christ. But as they come to know Christ, they are challenged to now look to their friends that do not know Christ, and they begin to share. Well, I continue to share as well. And now instead of just one person sharing the gospel as he is going and being on mission, there are now 2 of us. And what if this begins to multiply and multiply? Before you know it, we see a movement. Now, lest you think that this is theoretical, it's not. So recently there was a study conducted. In fact, it began in 2001 in Asia. We had some missionaries there. A man by the name of Ying Kai and his wife Grace. These are missionaries with our International Mission Board. Were somewhere in Asia, and they were ministering there. And they set a goal, as all missionaries are encouraged to do, to have so many goals, so many people, so many churches planted within a certain amount of time. Within 3 months of getting on the field, he reached out to his supervisors and he said, what do we do if we reach our goal already? 3 months in, they'd already reached their goal. And the response was, you need to keep going. And so they did. They began to notice something happening in this densely populated city, Asian city that was oppressive to the gospel. And they did a study that lasted about a decade, and in less than 10 years, these 2 missionaries had shown up and developed a process of multiplication, where they're multiplying leaders and churches and disciples, so that in less than 10 years, at the end of that 10-year stretch, there had been over 150,000 churches planted and over 1.7 million people baptized.
Thank you, Jesus.
You know how they did it? Through the power of multiplication, not the power of addition. You see, over there, when people were coming to know Christ, they didn't have all the baggage that we have here. See, we have the baggage of that you come to know Jesus and you just go sit in a pew until Jesus calls you home. That is a perfectly acceptable approach to being on mission for Christ in the Western context today, and it is not of the Lord. It is not biblical.